Well, good afternoon, Eric.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm well.
Good, good. Well, again, my name is Kimberly Williams, and I am going to be your counselor for today. So, thank you so much for taking the opportunity to come and see me today. And so, today we're going to do just a little bit of dialogue.
Okay.
I always like to say this session is about you. It's not about me.
Okay.
So I just want to just say, just relax. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna have a time where I can ask questions, and then you can also just tell me kind of what's on your mind and
Okay.
things that you have going on. So again, thank you for attending this session.
Absolutely.
So we'll just dive right in.
Okay.
So what I want to start off with is just what we called our intake and assessment portion. So I'm just going to just ask you before I start asking questions, I am just going to ask you, if you don't mind, to just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay.
And then I'll just kind of get into my questions. So some of it may be a little redundant, but that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So Eric, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am Eric Williams. I am 39 years old, born and raised in South Carolina.
Okay.
I am the husband of Kimberly Williams. We've been married for 9 years. We pastor a church in St. Mary's, Georgia,
Okay.
which we've been here or there for 5 years now.
Okay.
And so it has been a great journey.
Okay, great. How do you like pastoring?
I love it. Absolutely. It's the reason, I would say, almost like your reason why you get up in the morning.
Got it.
It's what gives me passion. It gives me purpose. It even gives me a hope for future of what I'm called to do in life, or my ability to navigate through life is a part of me pastoring.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much for that. So please, if you kind of just see me looking down,
Mhm.
it's just because I'm just jotting some information down. So
Okay.
I hope that's okay.
It's okay.
All right, great. All right. So you say that you're married.
Yes.
Oh, nice. How does it feel to be married for 9 years?
It has been an amazing journey. I love the woman that I'm with.
Okay.
I don't see myself with anybody else. It has been a great journey. Of course, in any marriage, you ups and downs, but more ups than downs.
Good.
We are great at communication that I think that I do, that I know.
Okay.
We
Okay.
do our best at making sure that we communicate properly and express how we feel, and just our desire for, whether it's the things of God, because of both of us are in church, or life. We try to see to it that we kind of go hand in hand with those things.
Got it. So you feel like you guys are on the same page
Absolutely.
as it relates to life and purpose and
Absolutely.
things like that.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Okay. Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Eric, so what we're gonna do, we're just gonna kind of do a deep dive into your background to kind of get to know you a little more.
Okay.
So we'll call this portion the family history section.
Okay.
So I think you've already answered this, but I'm gonna ask you again.
Okay.
So
Okay.
just
All right.
just bear with me.
Yeah.
So tell me again where you were born.
I was born in Hartsville, South Carolina.
Okay.
It's a little town outside of Florence, maybe an hour from Myrtle Beach.
Okay, got it. And were you raised in Hartsville?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
Okay. Also, are your parents, are they still married? Are they divorced?
My biological father and mother are not together, but I do have a stepfather who has been in my life since I was about 6, 7.
Okay.
And they've been married for 30-something years.
Okay. 30 years. All right. Is you mentioned your biological father.
Yeah.
Is he married, or is he dating, or anything?
No, he's actually in prison.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
Okay.
just kind of
Got it.
the road he took in
Okay.
life. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how many marriages or divorces do your mother and stepfather have outside of their relationship?
In relation to, have they been married before?
Yes.
They've never been married before.
Okay, so they've only been together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And so tell me, what kind of work does your mother do? What kind of work does your father do?
My mother was, she worked at her church in the daycare center. She did that for 20 years. My
Okay.
stepfather was a truck driver. He did that for over 30 years.
Okay. And you said your dad was a truck driver for 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Did that put him on the road a lot?
Oh, absolutely. He was gone a lot, especially when we were kids.
Okay.
He was a long distance truck driver, so he would be
Okay.
gone sometime for weeks at a time.
Got it. Okay. So what would be like the amount of time that he would be gone that you can think of?
A week and a half, 2 weeks. Then he'll be home maybe a week or home for 3 days, and then he was back out for 2 more weeks. So that was kind of our growing up. My mother practically raised us because he was gone a lot.
Got it. So let me ask you this. So when he was home, were you glad to see him when he did come home, or was it kind of like, because he was gone so much, did it feel like you were coming kind of like a stranger?
Well, number one, he was my stepfather.
Okay.
Number two, growing up, he was abusive. So
Okay.
even when he was there sometimes, and it wasn't like all the time, but
Okay.
there were moments and times where there was conflict, domestic violence in the home. So
Yeah.
when he came home, it was like, oh, he's here.
Mm. And at what age did you have that, oh, he's here? What age did you?
That was probably 7 until about 15, 16.
Okay.
Because as we got older, things kind of somewhat mellowed out because we were older, and as a boy, I would step in if something got too far. Did my best, of my ability at that age. But it lasted a long time.
So tell me a little bit more about that. When you said you would step in, what would be your way of stepping in?
Well, I felt like he was being threatening or volatile towards my mother, because it was typically towards her.
Okay.
I would kind of come and try my best to come in between them and kind of be that wedge to somewhat just protect my mom. Of course, as a man or as a boy at that time, very protective over my mother. I loved her and still do.
Yeah.
So I did the best that I could at 16 or
Sure.
15 years old to be able to be that individual that kind of gave some help, or at least I wanted to try to diffuse the issue or the problem if I could.
Got it. So did you like verbally say anything to him like stop or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't remember everything I would say,
Sure,
but
sure.
stop or or cry if it got too bad, because you
Got it.
really just couldn't control some of those fits.
Got it.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you did the best you could in trying to protect her? Or do you feel like in some ways like I failed or?
No, I never felt like I failed. I mean, once again, based upon me being a teenager and knowing that I didn't have the strength that he had, I just did my best.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So in now, because of that environment in your home, I just want to paraphrase, it wasn't necessarily the worst, but it also necessarily wasn't the best.
Exactly.
Is that an accurate assessment?
That's accurate.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So were you the oldest, or did you have any other siblings?
I'm the oldest
Okay.
of 2 siblings.
Okay. And so, and how many brothers and sisters do you have?
A sister and a brother.
Got it. Okay, so you're the oldest of a sister and a brother.
Yeah.
How did you notice maybe their reaction to the kind of environment or atmosphere that you guys grew up in? And did you feel like maybe you had to protect them, or?
My sister was the second child, so she was more vocal than I was, even though she was younger. She was more of the one that would jump on somebody, in that sense.
Okay.
My brother was more like me, but if it got too bad, he would jump in as well.
Got it. Okay.
But they, especially with my brother, because I was some years older, I would hear about the things that he would do after I was gone.
So tell me a little bit more about
So
that.
even after I was gone, there were still some issues and some fights and quarrels. And so I would call home. And my mom would say, well, your dad tried to jump on me last night or something like that. And your brother knocked the door down, or he got so upset until he did something and your dad stopped. So that was kind of the relationship after I left.
Got it. So when you left, tell me how you felt about leaving. Because from what I'm hearing, even when you left, there was still some domestic violence going on.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, were you leaving? Was that a way out? did you feel it was a way out, or how did you feel about leaving? Did you feel like you were leaving them?
Well, initially I left. My grandfather died, so my grandmother was having a hard time.
Okay.
So I moved in with her. My last year in, no, my last year in college. No, my last year of high school going into college, he passed away. So I moved in with her just to be just a help and just a support for her. And then I moved to Charlotte with my church to do ministry. So it wasn't me running away. It was me doing what I felt in my heart that it was purposeful for me to do. So, I mean, I hated the fact that I had to somewhat abandon my mom, knowing that the issues that were there for years. But I knew it was something that I had to do for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how old again were you? Tell me the age you were again.
By that time, I'm between 18, 19, 20.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Did she ever feel that you abandoned her, or did she understand your position and wanting to pursue purpose?
She understood that position.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So it's interesting. You had the ability to know you came from a tough environment, but you were able to kind of push past that. I don't want to say push past, but do you feel like you were able to compartmentalize? Okay, I know this is going on with my family. I'm not necessarily a superhero. I can't fix all of this.
Right.
But, I feel like there's something greater calling me. So you were able to kind of separate those two.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Okay, good. Okay, so we talked about that. My next question was going to say, tell me about your family as a child. So you've done that. So we've kind of delved into that. Tell me about how do you think, and you can give me the positive and the negative of both. Tell me how growing up in the type of environment you grew up in. Tell me how it affected you in a positive way and maybe in a negative way, if you don't mind.
There's a quote that says, people teach you two things. They teach you what to do, or they teach you what not to do. And so I kind of live by that principle that, growing up in a home where there was violence, where there was a lot of, fights and things like that and bad tempers, it taught me what not to do in my own home. It taught me, from seeing my mom and even seeing my dad, with just their issues, what I did not want to have in my own house or in my own environment or in my own marriage. It was even things in relation to, my children in the future, things that I don't want my children to have to suffer through that. So that became a part of kind of my constitution as a person, that there's some things I cannot do. There's some ways that I cannot act because I know the outcome. I know what it produced. So that was, to me, that's seemed like a negative thing, but to me it was a positive thing because now I know what not to do. The negative side was probably the same. Probably the same, just to even my ability to help other people see that if you respond or act this particular way, that years from now there will be outcome, not just for the family dynamic itself, but your children and the way your children relate to their children. Because even in my sister now, from growing up in that environment, I can almost say she might not have done as well as I did processing through that pain or processing through a father that jumps on your mother in the middle of the night. And so even through that, I see how she relates to her children and how they have come up. And it's kind of like, but it helped me to understand what I do today will always affect my tomorrow. And so I had to act accordingly. I had to live a certain way. I had to respond a certain way. And so even in my marriage now, for years, I would say there was a part of me that if there was an argument or an argument came up, I would be the recluse. I was the one that, I don't want to fuss. I don't want to fight. I don't want to argue. Let's just chill. Let's go get a sandwich and just sit down somewhere, because I did not want to create that same volatile environment in my own home.
Got it.
So, I mean, I dealt with that whole virtual advice thing because, even in a marriage where, you can't always be the person that says we just want to sit down and just not do anything about it. There's sometimes you have to engage certain issues in order to get to resolve.
Okay. So even in your marriage,
Yeah.
and this can be marriage or friendship,
Yeah.
how do you view, so I'll ask you this.
Okay.
So looking at conflict from your maybe 15-year-old self as opposed to your 39-year-old self.
Yeah.
What have you learned about conflict, and how do you process through that now?
That there is a right way to deal with conflict. And I think in many cases, especially, and I can talk about from my culture and where I've come from,
Okay.
we don't necessarily know how to do conflict well. It's
Okay.
either we are amazingly, we blow up and we
Okay.
express ourselves in a negative way, or we shut down and we don't do anything at all. But there is a right way to handle any situation, even if it's negative. There is a right way to converse with an individual, to express how you feel, to express what really happened, and to come to a resolve.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so what way do you do that personally, in a practical way?
First, I have to think. I'm not the person that just when something blows up to just always have the answers. So there are moments at times where I have to back up for a moment to assess the problem or the issue, but also to assess my own heart, to assess my own mind, to assess my own feelings. That am I the root of this? Am I the cause of this? Even if it was the other person's fault or issue, what can I do to still bring a resolve? Because even if I feel like, even if you are not the person that is wrong, sometimes you might need to apologize just to keep the peace or just to maintain the relationship. Okay. And so that's one of the things I do.
Okay. So do you think you are a very introspective person and not necessarily a reactive?
Yes, more so introspective. I want to back up for a moment and then come back and say, okay, let's talk about this. And these are the elements that I'm bringing to the table of conversation. Okay. This is what we need to look at. This is what we need to assess. And where do we need to go from here?
Okay. Yeah. So if you find that person you're talking to is not as introspective, they're more reactive than you are. Yeah. How do you view that person? Do you view that person through the eyes of, this reminds me of my stepfather? Or do you separate the two? Do you bring that experience as a young boy into that current argument?
I don't think I do, but I'm probably subconsciously do. Just somewhere in the back of my mind where this reminds me of what happened, in '89 or whenever. Gotcha. That I don't want it to go to the place where we can't reconcile. Okay. Or to the place where not just hit you, but I hit you with my words or with my actions in such a way that it perpetually traumatizes you or brings you to a place where you are hurt so badly that relationship cannot be redeemed.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you would say, and I'm just gonna repeat, let me know if I'm wrong. So you're saying just even in conflict resolution situations, you don't go in necessarily focused on the problem so much so, but your goal is I want a resolution.
I want a resolution, but where did this start? What is the root behind your anger? What is the root behind you coming in the house and not speaking? Well, what is the root behind that? Because even if you deal with the problem, that root still stays there, or the root issue, or whatever cause and effects. Whatever caused this issue, that's what the thing I think we need to really look at, because if you're dealing with the effects, you're just dealing with the outcomes of what has happened. You're not dealing with the root of why this person acts this way or why you respond the way that you respond.
Okay, so you're concerned about roots.
I'm concerned about the root.
What caused this? Okay.
And so even if myself is the cause of being in a marriage and not wanting to react or talk about an issue, the cause was my 15-year-old self still remembers the trauma of growing up in a home where there was domestic violence.
Interesting. So you use the word trauma. Do you think, when did you discover that what you were experiencing was a form of trauma? At what age in life did you say, oh, wait, this is more than
probably college, going through psychology courses.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I don't think you have verbiage for that growing up. You just know Dad was mad last night, or Mom is crying, or dad bust the TV out, or the cops were called, or somebody was bleeding. And so because you don't have verbiage or language for that, you just sum it all into my family's crazy. And I feel bad about what has happened, and I'm scared to sleep at night, or different things like that. But when, coming to, college and psychology courses, like, oh, my family is traumatic. So yeah.
Okay. And so when you, now by this time, now let me ask you, in terms of your I don't know, faith or religion, what is kind of your base? What is your foundation? And what do you feel like has kind of helped you process through all of these things?
Well, my faith in God. It's my faith in Jesus Christ, my relation with him. Of course, I got saved when I was 15. And Jesus, he just radically changed my life. And so as I began to study the Word of God and pray and church and have a nucleus of friends that were around me who helped me through my mental issues or what have you, it just gave me a different outlook on where that was. I believe even that was the thing that gave me the ability to say, I cannot live my mom's life. Even if she's in a bad marriage, I cannot live her life or make decisions for her. I must follow the path that God has for my life. And that was one of the things that happened. Through my relationship with God, which became the foundation of my life, it gave me the ability to see my stepfather differently, to know there is no way that you can abuse somebody unless you had been abused. Or that you cannot create trauma unless trauma was created for you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you... that was such a powerful point to say. I realized that I cannot live for my mom.
Right.
Or I can't. So was that your relationship with God?
My relationship with God that helped me to understand where the life that she lives. Even though my mom was, later on she became a Christian as well. Her life was her life. I couldn't live her life. I couldn't make the decisions that were needed to stay in a marriage or to leave a marriage, And of course, there were moments in time I was like, Mom, leave. Just pack up and go. But that wasn't my decision to make. But my decision to make was to follow God, to follow the path that he had for me, which was leaving South Carolina, moving to Charlotte, North Carolina, helping my pastor start a church, which now led me to the place where I am now pastoring a church on my own. And if I had not done that, I would still be stuck in that environment. Might not have been in the house, but still in that environment, trying to track and trace the trauma, trying to heal, trying to recoup.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and we'll kind of wrap it up here in a sense.
Okay.
Because I think this is a kind of a good stopping point. So tell me, at what point do you feel like God began to heal the trauma in your life, or to heal this aspect of trauma with your family? When
I started seeing it through just the eyes of Jesus, just his love, his compassion, his mercy, that he extends mercy and kindness and love to all men, but it's based upon that individual receiving it.
Okay.
So I, once again, in relation to whether it was my mom, my stepfather, or whomever, or my own dad who was not in my life, who was in jail, I had to come to the realization that the same grace that was extended to me has been extended to them.
Got it.
But it's also based upon their reception of that grace, their reception of that love that changes their lives, that helps them make better decisions. And so when I started seeing life through that lens and understanding that I was no greater than them, I just received God's grace. I received his salvation, his mercy, and his love, and he radically changed my life. God could do that for them, but it was based upon them receiving it. If they didn't receive it, then they would go through life traumatic. They would go through life continuing to make those bad decisions.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah. Because
I think it's so easy for us to experience people who, especially when you're the victim.
Yeah.
Like, I was helpless. I couldn't do anything about this. Yeah. And so it's kind of easy to blame and to put that kind of responsibility in a certain way that is on them. But as we continue to grow, as we continue to heal, and especially as a Christian, as a believer,
Yeah.
to be able to say, you know what, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I know that there's some things in my life
Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
I've been an offender in.
Absolutely.
So Lord, if you're willing to give me grace,
Yes.
then I can
Extend grace.
Yeah. So that's a beautiful way to get through that type of trauma.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate you taking the time to share that.
All right.
And so do you feel like you're healed? Do you feel like you're in a place? And this is I'll ask it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, how do you know that you are healed from this?
Just the trauma of my parents.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
When I am able to embrace both of them the same way.
So tell me, okay, can you dive
I
into that?
embrace my stepfather with the same love and compassion and sincerity that I do my natural mother. I call him father.
Okay.
I call him my dad because he's the one who's been in my life, these 20 plus, almost, probably at least 30 years.
Okay.
So I don't see him through the lens of what he did when he was growing up.
Okay.
I see him for who he is.
Mhm.
He's been the man who took on the responsibility to raise me, even though he created a traumatic environment. I still love him the same.
Got it.
Yeah, there's my mother and my father.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think he feels that, or he senses that from you?
Yes, and I think in many cases more so from his biological children.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you mean he senses his
I'm talking about in
Okay.
relation to my sister and my brother. They love him, but he knows that I love him.
Or maybe he knows that you forgive him.
Yeah, that could
Do
be
you
that
think- I mean-
that could be
Okay,
it. But I'm
okay.
talking about just based upon their relationship and things that I've seen them go through. There are some things that maybe they would say out of anger
Okay.
or out of what you did in our past that I would never bring up. That I would not
Okay.
only never bring up, but I would never assault him with what happened yesterday.
But you feel like that is something that they would do.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah,
And you've never done that
never.
since.
I
Okay.
never would.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a way to give somebody the freedom to
Yeah, to live.
to live.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you so much.
Thank
for
you, I
your
appreciate
time
it.
this evening. I hope that our session has kind of even though you're in a place of healing, I really
Mhm.
hope it helped you kind of just understand even the more,
Yeah.
just kind of how you have processed
Yeah.
what you've gone through,
Yeah.
and how it is truly the stepping stone for your next level in life. So again, thank you for your time.